county's property.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the City of Tyler Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and we want to welcome all our friends and neighbors to this meeting. It is a public meeting, and we're always happy to have people present. You guys are kind of close together. I've got plexiglass walls between me and these other people. I don't know if they're dangerous or not. Some of them are. The first order of business is to call the roll, and I'm not sure who's doing that.
Sheila.
Are you down there? I can't see.
Yes.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Nichols.
Present.
Commissioner Landis.
Here.
Commissioner Swain.
Here.
Commissioner Whitney. Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Phoenix.
Present.
Great.
Commissioner Hudson.
Present. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Agenda item C21-005 will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, May 12, 2021, commencing at 9 a.m. All other items approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, May 26, 2021, commencing at 9 a.m. If you received a notice for this meeting, you should also have received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission solely unless there is a request for waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If an item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you're here to speak for and against an item when that item is called for review, you please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. If you call in, you may call 903-363-0651. It will be placed on hold until that item is open for comments. When you're speaking, please state your name and address for the record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. The next we always have a workshop meeting in addition to this meeting, and that meeting will be held directly at the conclusion of this meeting, and those meetings are like this one are open to the public. The next item on our agenda is consideration of minutes from the Commission regular and teleconference meeting of April the 6th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes from our April 6th meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Commissioner Swain, second.
Motion's been seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the first item on our zoning agenda is PD21-006 Brown Diversified Interest LLC, 421 South College Avenue. Kyle?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This first request is a zone change request from RPO, Restricted Professional Office District, to PMF, Planned Multifamily Residential District, with the intent of developing a quadplex on the property. The surrounding properties to the north, the property to the north is zoned for an office use and is currently developed with an office. The property to the east is zoned for multifamily and C2 general commercial, but it's the location of St. Gregory Elementary School. And then the property to the south is currently zoned RMF multifamily, and the properties to the west are zoned R1B single family and are developed with single family homes. This request would to PMF Plan Multifamily would amend the future land use guide to multifamily. It's currently designated as single family medium low density. The the request, again, so this is for the property at 421 South College Avenue. The staff discussed the proposal with the applicant's representative and discussed that the request for a quadplex or any multifamily designation would be incompatible with the surrounding existing land uses. This area is predominantly single-family residential homes. There is office in the area. This property is currently zoned for office. This property is actually one of the last remaining homes, or the older homes in Tyler, built in 1847. So the zoning should reflect the a use that could help adapt it or adapt the reuse of the property. And so, in discussing with the applicant, we do have a zoning designation AR, adaptive reuse, which would allow for flexibility in to allow for a single-family use as well as light office. So it's currently zoned for office, but it would not allow for any residential use. And so AR zoning would provide that flexibility, and also require that the property maintain a residential character, which is also important for that neighborhood. So the applicant did mention that they want to proceed with the AR zoning request. And with that, since that request would be more intense than what was noticed to the public, that the commission could not approve that today, but the commission could table the request to allow for that request to be notified to the neighbors. And so we did receive one letter in favor of the request from the applicant. We did receive two in opposition from neighbors in the area, and this is in opposition to the planned multifamily, the quadplex, and the total protest is just over 33%. And so, for the planned multifamily to move forward, it would require a 3/4 majority approval from the city council if that was the will of the commission. But like I mentioned, the applicant is one to proceed with the AR zoning, which would require that the request be tabled for 30 days, so it can be re-notified and come back next month with that proposal. And so with that, staff does recommend tabling the request for 30 days to allow the re-notification of the AR zoning.
Thank you, Kyle. Any questions from city staff? I know there are a lot of people here. I'm sorry.
Just two questions. Kyle, can you speak a little bit to first zoning, second AR in regards to historical sites or anything like that? So next door, it's the zoning is residential multifamily. And so can you tell us a little bit about that zoning and why this property was rezoned to RPO? And I'm assuming that it's all single-family homes next door, residential multifamily. What about that aspect?
Sure. The surrounding to the south is currently RMF, and those are, like, this is a historical area, older area that the zoning at that time allowed for single-family homes to be built in multifamily districts, and which that is not the case anymore. And so what you did see over time, and this whole area really, that even though they are zoned for multifamily, that they are still single-family. I mean, there are some duplexes in the area, but generally it's single-family homes, and so that is the current situation, at least on this block or the street here. So there hasn't been any change conditions, I guess, that would indicate that these properties are going to be changed to traditional multifamily uses. So they, I guess, essentially they are single family homes in residential or multifamily districts, but
Right.
the predominant land use is still single family.
Single family. Okay. Second question is about adaptive reuse and then historic preservation. Is there would be no requirement for any kind of historic preservation aspects if it was rezoned to adaptive reuse, is there?
No, so the, the property is not identified as a registered local landmark.
Okay.
It is identified as a high priority property for preservation, so
Okay.
we would encourage, any owner to, look into having it designated as a landmark. But the zoning itself does not, mean
Doesn't
that it's
preclude.
going to be preserved as a landmark.
Okay.
What the AR zoning would allow is the flexibility in kind of the development standards. So the idea really is to allow for, the AR zoning is to allow for these older homes to be rehabbed or reused so they don't fall into disrepair and they stay used and not vacant.
Yes, sir.
And so they can be used as a light office, like an attorney's office or whatnot. And so I think in this case, the current zoning would, if there was, if the property was vacant, that the zoning would allow for an office to be built, but it would not require that, it maintain any residential character. It
Okay.
would not require, or it would allow maybe the front yard to be paved over and parking. And so AR would not allow that. AR would restrict the amount of the front yard that can be paved.
Sure.
And so that seems like a better fit for perhaps for the applicant, to be able to have the flexibility and what they use the property for and use the existing structure as well.
Who designates this property as a high priority? What staff? What would be a resource
Yeah,
for
so
people?
it would be, well, it's a historical resource survey that was conducted in 1999
Okay.
that identified the property as high priority. That's just identifying contributing properties to the historic districts. And so
Okay.
this was identified as high priority. For it to be listed as a landmark, it would require that the owner voluntarily consent to be a landmark.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you, Jimmy, for those questions. It appears to me that there are quite a few people here who are interested in this application. So let me just make sure we all understand where we are. The staff's recommendation is to table the request for PMF. And the applicant has indicated to the staff that he may want to come back with an AR request. If that happens, it requires a reposting, have to come back in 30 days. So there won't be any action. Well, let me back up. Everything we do is voted on. So if we follow the staff recommendation, there'll be no action today on the PMF except to table the request, give the applicant 30 days to come back and reapply for what appears to be a different zoning. That is what appears will happen. Again, we're going to vote on this before we leave. However, many people have come who have an interest in this application, and I have some cards from people that have indicated willingness or interest in speaking, and because you are here, we're going to welcome comments from the public who have an interest in this particular application. The first card that I have is from Mr. Priestner. Mark, should come and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Priestner, Planning Concepts, 3815 Old Bullard Road. As Kyle said, I've spoken to the applicant and have been talking with the city as well. The applicant originally intended to build a quadplex like you see kind of spattered throughout this section of town. After looking at the character of what's built up and down this residential street, or this it's a street that's got primarily residential, but it's got some commercial uses. But really in keeping with the character, our opinion is that the AR fits it best, because if we keep it as RPO, remember it's currently zoned RPO, which is just straight office. If it can't be used as a residence, as a single family residence, then to go in and make it marketable as a office, you're gonna tear down the house and build an office with parking in the front, which really doesn't meet in with the character of that neighborhood. It's got parking in the rear right now, but that driveway wouldn't meet RPO standards for a two-way drive. So in talking with staff, we feel that AR is really the best way to go in this because it does promote keeping a residential feel to the neighborhood in any building if it's built. It also really helps them in preserving the existing building rather than building new, because if it can be used as a residence, there's a whole lot more they can do with it rather than having to meet ADA standards on a new office building. So we think it's the best way to go. As Kyle said, you know, the sticky part is it's technically or realistically, it's a less intense use than a multifamily use, but because it's both office and residential, categorically, it's a more intense use, so that's why it's gotta go back for re-notification. So it's not a kick, we're not trying to kick the can down the road and come back with something different. We would have preferred to just go ahead with an AR, but we feel that's the best use for the property, and if we have to wait 30 days, then that's what he needs to do. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, let me just make sure I understand, Mark. It's your intention, representing the applicant, to come back in 30 days with an AR
Correct.
request.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Priestner?
Mr. Priestner, is the structure currently being used at all or is it vacant?
Not to my knowledge. I
Okay.
don't know that for sure.
Okay. Is it the intention of the owner to raise the structure or to rehabilitate the current structure? Because you talked about both.
Yeah, under AR, it's to rehabilitate the existing structure. If he was going to multifamily, it probably would have been raised and just built new because it's just too hard to make it work.
Okay.
If he can go with, the residential and, either residential or office, remember, they're not co-occupying, but it could be either use at any time. If you do that, then it would work as keeping the existing structure, from what I understand from him.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Priestner? Mark, thank you for your time and presence here today. I also have a card from Claudia Carroll. Ms. Carroll, would you like to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record?
Thank you. My name is Claudia Carroll, not Karen, as we were called on our social media site for Historic Tyler. So anyway, a bunch of Karens is what we were called. So besides having the intrinsic historic value, this home was a contributing property to the Brick Street Historic District. And so we feel like, as Kyle mentioned earlier, definitely important in that respect. And we have a hard time protecting our historic districts. When you allow infill projects like this, then yes, we destroy the whole look of the street. I travel around the state with my real estate business, which is what I do in real life. And people comment on Tyler and how beautiful it is. And the first thing they talk about is our brick streets, the beautiful trees, the beautiful homes. That's what we want to preserve. The bigger question is, should a zone change what would result in the inappropriate addition or demolition of this home, or any other home for that matter? Where is a plan to prevent this from happening? Had it not been for somebody driving down the street and seeing the sign, Historic Tyler would have never known that this home was in danger of being demolished. I'd like to know if there is a way that we can, any home, especially in a historic district that's over a certain age, that it go to the city's Historic Preservation Board before it comes to planning and zoning, so that we can catch things like this in the future, because it would have been a crying shame to tear down the oldest documented home in Tyler, Texas. And that is all I have to say. I know there's a couple of other people that are going to speak on behalf of Historic Tyler as well.
Claudia, thank you for your time and presence here today. Any questions for Ms. Carroll?
Yeah, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let the record show that Beth Whitney is here now, so we have a full house. I also have a card from John Stone. Mr. Stone, would you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record?
My name is John Stone, and I live at 520 Fraser. I have to tell you, my hearing is bad. I've gotten kind of old, and so if you have questions for me, yell them. I just have some personal feelings about 421 South College. You know, it wasn't always 421 South College. It was the Jones House, and the road in front of it was called Jones Street, and would eventually be part of the Jones Addition on the city map. It was built in 1847, a year after Texas became a state, Tyler became a town, and 3 years before a single building had been built on our town square. Houses like this, gathered around the various springs here, are the very reason Tyler was established as a frontier village. There's no house older than this one here, and it's probably one of the oldest surviving in the state. Its loss would be irreplaceable. No famous person ever lived in this house, but this is a place that has witnessed everything: the Civil War, the railroads, the prospering of the city, brick streets and azaleas. School children for generations knew of this house. The school was there on Front Street, and they would pass by it all the time. Mr. Brown has a good reputation here. He's assisted in renovating several properties in the Tyler, but the plans for this property have been pretty much unknown to the public. So I asked for the delay so that other possibilities might be considered. I thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, John. Anybody want to yell at John and so I can hear?
I can take it.
John, thank you for your time and presence here today. I also have a card from Michael Romines. Michael?
Good afternoon. Michael Romines, 727 South Chilton, President-elect of Historic Tyler as well. I grew up at 700 South Broadway, and so from a personal perspective, have grown up in that area, have, as a kid, rode my bike up and down in front of this house hundreds of times, and just want to speak to that point as to our generations and as they go. If we start down this slippery slope in some regards, sometimes that's just an avenue we can't get away from. And so to some extent, when we talk about tearing down the oldest house in Tyler, you know, I'd like to believe that that in and of itself is argument enough, oldest house in Tyler, that in and of itself is argument enough to say, well, you know, but I understand we discuss these things, and you see the position that a lot of us take. And the second thing is, I think it's important to remember, and I don't want this by any means to be sounding like I'm telling y'all, and I appreciate the service y'all do, but you know, by and large, you wouldn't have these kind of things come before P&Z from Holly Tree or Cascades or any new development, because they have deed restrictions and they have things that prevent that from happening. And so we have to hope that commissions such as this can be that deed restriction for these areas before that was a thing, before that was a part of how we built neighborhoods and developed areas. And so I think it's real important for us to keep that in mind. The third thing I would just point out is, in timing alone, we're 2 weeks away from Historic Tyler's home tour. Annual tour, didn't do it last year, for obvious reasons, but here is one of the things that many of us, and I know many of y'all on this commission and city council have been a part of, are a part of, and here people come from hundreds of miles around to see some of these homes, and to think that this is potentially a home that in the years to come would be a candidate for our home tour, yet we made a decision to tear this down. I just think it's something we'd all look back and say, maybe not the best decision. And so I just want to be real clear about, one, my appreciation for the work y'all do to hear these things and have to make sometimes tough decisions, but at the same time to voice that not just me, not just those that are here, but a significant number of people find that this is probably just not the best opportunity, not the best route for us to go with this. So,
Any questions for Mr. Romines? Michael, thank you for your time and presence. Those are the only cards I have today, but I know there are others in the room who are not shy. And if there are others who would like to speak, we'll recognize you as you come to the microphone and state your name for the record, please. Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm not shy. My name is Jimmy Horton, 2909 South Robertson, right here in beautiful downtown Tyler. 74 years ago, I was born at the Gaffney Brown Clinic, which is now PATH. That's 2 blocks from this piece of property. It was 100 years old when I was born, and I'm old today. I am chairman of the Oakwood Cemetery Restoration Project, vice president of Save the Mayfair. I'm on the board on the steering committee for the East Texas Crisis Center. I am involved with history of Tyler and what Tyler means to me. First house my wife and I bought was at 327 West Houston. It was the first parsonage for First Presbyterian Church. I'm telling you all that to let you know that I am interested in preservation of Tyler. I'm old enough to remember I was 7 years old when the courthouse was torn down. I saw the Blackstone Hotel torn down. There's been too many things like that. Now, if you drive by the College Street house, it's got a beautiful front facade. Now, it's in well need of restoration. But I agree with what Claudia said and what others have said. We need to protect our history because when it's gone, it's gone. And Tyler has too much history to destroy it. Thank you.
Mr. Harden, thank you for your time and presence. Any questions?
I could talk all day, just ask.
I'm glad that somebody historic has shown up here, Jimmy, because I'm the same age as you are. So, others who would, yes, ma'am. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Ashley Washman. I'm the Executive Director for Historic Tyler. Thanks for letting us speak today. I would like to echo everything, all the points that were made earlier, and I would also like to add that we just put out a petition in opposition of the zone change, and as of this morning, we had 217 signatures opposing the quadplex zone change, and we had over 60 comments. And so I don't know if y'all would like a copy of this. I printed it out for you to review. Kyle, can you take this, or?
Give that to Kyle,
Okay.
that'd be great. We're always interested in public input.
Okay, that's all I had to add. Thank you.
Ashley, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Any others who feel the need to speak? I have a question for Kyle. The question has been raised, Kyle, about notice to the Historic Preservation, our city person and the Historic Preservation Board. Can you address that for, I think it was Claudia that asked that question.
Well, I think the question was whether, for zone changes like in these areas, if they can be notified of that, or if that can go to the board, I guess for a recommendation or whatnot. So since the landmark designation is a voluntary process, if they're not listed registered landmarks or listed landmarks, that just the zoning itself is not something that would be under the purview of the Historic Preservation Board, but definitely in terms of communication with these groups, with Historic Tyler and the HPB, that can definitely be something that can happen.
Thank you, Kyle. And if I understood what you said, you can assure Claudia and others that in the future the notice of this kind would be given.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We have a long agenda today, and y'all are welcome to stay and see good government if you want to. But before we get there, we need to have, if we're going to follow the staff's recommendation, we need to have a motion to table the PMF request. Is there such a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nichols, make a motion to table this item.
Commissioner Reed, second.
Is that adequate, Kyle?
Yes, I would just like to clarify that the actual PMF request is not recommended at all, so so I guess tabling the application for 30 days for the amended request would be essentially, I think your recommendation, or the motion was fine,
But the
On the
intent is
record.
to table this zoning item entirely for 30 days.
Right.
Is that Mr. Reed,
That's my intention.
everybody? All right, any discussion on that item or that motion? If not, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, and that is to ask that we call the roll on this item, call the roll of the zoning commission.
Chairman Hudson,
Present. I know, I'm sorry. I am present, but aye on the motion.
Commissioner Phoenix,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Whitney,
Aye.
Commissioner Swain,
Aye.
Commissioner Landis,
Aye.
Commissioner Nichols.
I believe that's a unanimous vote to table this item for 30 days. And Kyle, when's our next, when will that meeting be?
it would be June 1st.
June 1st, Tuesday, June 1st. Thank you all for your time and presence. And again, if you want to see how really good government works, you can stay the rest of the day. All right, the next item on our agenda, if not, you can bail. The next item on our agenda is Z21-007, Brian and Pamela Childress, 1004 South Porter Avenue.
Answers that question. Clear it out.
Old home week. All right, Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, Tharani.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. And good afternoon to everyone present here. It's nice to see you all this afternoon.
We're glad to see you, Tharani, but I'm having trouble hearing. If there's a way to make it a little bit louder, somebody,
Can you hear me?
barely.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay. This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential District to R2 Two Family Residential District. This is a property that's located at the southeast intersection of East Divine Street and South Porter Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop duplex on the property. The property to the north is zoned INT and is undeveloped as of right now. The property to the south and west is zoned R1A and are not developed with single-family homes. Oh, no, they are developed with single-family homes, and one of the property is undeveloped. Sorry. The property to the east is zoned R2 and is developed with the duplex. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family, medium, low density, and this would amend the future land use guide to single-family attached because it's two-unit duplex, attached medium, high density. The applicant has recently subdivided the property. There's a single-family house to the south, so they are planning to have duplex on that current property. Out of the 12 notices sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff has reviewed the request and finds that it is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Tharani. Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z21-007.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. Next is Z21-013, David W. McGraw and Deborah L. Neely, 1418 East Southeast Loop 323. Tharani?
This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential District to AR Adaptive Reuse District. The applicant is requesting the zone change to match the neighboring land uses. The property is located at the northeast. It's at the sole axis of the loop 323. The property to the north is zoned AR and is a single-family home with a chiropractor's office in there. The property to the northwest and southwest is zoned R1A and are developed as single-family homes. The property to the southeast is zoned INT and it's in the location of a high school. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family medium-low density, and this would be inconsistent with the future land use guide. The applicant, as I had discussed before, is requesting the zone change to match the surrounding neighboring zoning. And this is also a property that has sole access to the loop 323. The property to the north was recently rezoned from R1A to AR in 2016. And the applicant is also planning to sell the property in the future. Out of the 19 notices that were sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of this zone change.
All right, Tharani, any questions for city staff? If not, I don't have any cards, but are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Commissioner Swain, make a motion, we approve item Z21-013.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Zoning item is, zoning change is approved. Next is Z21-011, Dale Chapel Baptist Church, 620 West Glenwood Boulevard. Right?
This is a zone change that's requested from R1B Single Family Residential District and R2 Two Family Residential District to PMF. I want to clarify that the applicant had requested for C1 Light Commercial District earlier and requested to amend the request to PMF, which is a planned multifamily district with the site narrative. The applicant is requesting the zone change to open a child care center in the facility. That's the church building. That's the Dale Baptist Church, Dale Chapel Baptist Church. The property to the north is zoned R2 and are developed with single-family homes. The property to the east, west, and south are zoned R1B and PUR and are developed with single-family homes, and it also has a church to the northeast. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family, medium-low density, and with PMF being multifamily, this would change the future land use guide to multifamily. The applicant is requesting the zone change for a child care center in the building to the south of the building. With the C1, since it's going to be a spot zoning, the applicant request, the staff consulted with the applicant and changing the request to PMF. And with the PMF, there's usually a site plan or a site narrative that's attached to it, and the applicant has provided a floor plan that shows where the daycare is going to be in the building. The requested change would allow for both use, that is the daycare and the church, to be conducted in the same building. The applicant did not provide sufficient information on the site plan, but looking at after discussing with the applicant, they had mentioned us that the drop-off and the pickup would be on the East 5th Street. You can review from there, it would be at the south end, and the entrance to the daycare would be on the south entrance, leaving the north to the church. Out of the 9 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and 1 in opposition to the request with 0.83% of the total protest calculation. The opposition neighbor had indicated that they had sent the request for the initial request C1, indicating that it is a spot zoning and was worried about the future commercial use of the property. And after that, they had amended to PMF. And staff has reviewed the request and recommends that the zone change should be approved with the site narrative with the condition that only a daycare and a church be allowed in that facility, so it would restrict the use of the building.
All right, Ronnie, and the change in request from C1 to PMF, that's been properly posted and noticed.
Well, since PMF is a residential use and C1 is a non-residential use, since it's a down zoning, the notice is not required.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any cards on this item. Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Thorani.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we can. Okay, so the planned multifamily site plan, assuming that there would be an aspect of a narrative as well. And so I guess maybe the intention is to have it stipulate daycare use, church use as part of the PMF site plan and narrative and aspects. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and so the applicant's mostly just looking to utilize this facility, the church, for a daycare.
Yep.
And at the time, they requested commercial zoning, which is not, would not be, appropriate at this location, definitely not, a straight zoning like C1. With PMF allowing that use that they're requesting, that seemed like the more sensitive kind of, it's still a residential zoning, but it's not necessarily, it's not gonna be open to any multifamily residential use. It's really just for the daycare use.
Okay.
And it's just, we have other examples of, these facilities that have, sometimes it's, older school that have been reoccupied or reused as a daycare. We have examples of that. And so really the zoning is limited to that daycare use and then whatever kind of institutional use that would also be allowed. In this case, it'd be the church.
So in this case, if we made the decision to move to approve, we would need to stipulate for daycare and church use only.
That's right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
And if there was to be a change later on, that would be considered through a site plan amendment or a PMF amendment.
Yes.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for that question. Thank you, Kyle. Any other questions? Any person here who'd like to speak on this item for or against? If not, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z21-011 with the stipulation that it be used as a daycare and also a church facility only.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded again. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Thorani. Next is C 21-004 Meadow Plaza LLC.
This is a closure request for alley right-of-way. The applicant is requesting the closure to replat the right-of-way into adjacent properties. This property is located in the north end, and the applicant plans to develop mixed retail and duplexes on the property, which we would see in the next zoning item. Since this property is located in the north end, this would help develop the property and also would help develop the north end. Out of the 8 notices that were sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of this right-of-way closure with it being replatted within 6 months.
Thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff? Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item? Mr. Priestner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Priest from Planning Concepts, 3815 Old Bullard Road. As Tarani pointed out, this is a property that's zoned industrial. This section of North Glenwood has got some redevelopment that's happened in that area. There's a salon across the street. The park is just up the road. So what we're wanting to do is look at doing kind of a mixed use, and you'll see this zoning case coming next, in doing some residential and some commercial combined together. This is an unimproved alleyway. It doesn't have any utilities in it. It was never constructed. It's just one of those leftover alleyways. So we want to incorporate it into the site plan, and you'll see that PMXD request second or next. So that, yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Priestner?
Mr. Priestner, have you talked to the neighbor, this Jimmy Banks, by any chance?
No, he's actually using part of that property. It could be closed through there from a time standpoint. What ended up happening is we started with the zoning and the site plan and then realized that was an open alleyway because we weren't sure that that was still there. He's using it as part of his parking lot.
Okay.
So he's already incorporated that into that used car parking lot. So,
Okay.
you know, I don't see any reason why, and I would imagine that he'd probably come in on the heels and close it, and we might be able to plat it all together.
Okay.
We just had to go ahead and close it in order to get the zoning done.
Sure. No, he talked specifically about noise and that kind of thing of his business and early mornings and because of the current zoning, and I don't know about noise pollution. I mean, maybe city staff can talk specifically about that, but that was his protest, was about noise pollution.
Changing it back?
No, he starts his business early in the morning and then putting homes next to it, but him having his industrial zoning and noise pollution aspects.
Yeah, because we're doing this as a PMX and doing it more like a downtown Austin style, you know, houses closer together, we're backing up to the property lines all the way around. We're going to create our own buffer in between the two. So we're going into it knowing that we're in an industrial district.
Okay.
But that's kind of part of what we're trying to do. We're keeping a commercial component inside this district. So we fully intend to have it as a more urban style development.
Sure.
So I don't see any problems with that at all.
This is for the next item?
Yeah.
Right? So we're reviewing the closure request?
Yes.
So,
Kyle, I'm sorry, I jumped. I apologize.
You missed last month.
All right, Mr. Priestner is the only person who signed up to speak on this item. Are there others who would like to speak for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve C 21-004.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Street closure is approved. Next is Z 21-015 Meadow Plaza LLC. Tharani?
Yes, this is a zone change request from M1 Light Industrial to PMXD1, which is Planned Mixed Use District. As discussed earlier, this zone yes.
Prematurely.
This zone change request is to develop mixed retail and duplexes on the property. The property to the north is zone for C1, and it's developed with commercial uses, and the property to the east, west, and south is zoned M1 and is also developed with commercial and industrial uses. This request would amend the future land use guide from neighborhood commercial to mixed use center since it's a PMXD1 zoning district. This comes with the site plan, and if you look at the site plan, the applicant is proposing a 3,100 square feet building for both retail and office spaces, and also 4 residential units in the second and third story of the building. The site plan also proposes 9 additional uses to the south and the east of the property. The setbacks are 20 feet from all the streets and 15 from the south property line and 10 between the structures, especially the duplexes to the south and the east. The maximum height is 42, and parking, signage, and landscaping are all to meet the UDC regulations. This property is located in the north end, as discussed earlier, and this will help implement the Tyler First comprehensive plan of adding 3,000 more households in the north end with the duplexes and 4 residential units. This is also a mixed use C1 and duplexes on the property with PMX D1. Out of the 10 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and 1 in opposition to the request, with the total percentage calculation of 10.32%. The opposition was concerned about the traffic, congestion, and noise pollution in the area, and staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is generally consistent with the approval criteria, and staff recommends approval of this zone change with the site plan.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Priestner? You want to reiterate your previous comments? Any questions for Mr. Priestner? All right, let the record show that Mark Priester, 3815 Old Boulder Road, was here to answer questions. Any questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z21-015.
Commissioner Swain, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is PD 21-007, Werner Taylor Land Development LP. Ron?
This is a zone change request from RPO, Restricted Professional Office District, to PUR, Planned Unit Residential District. The applicant is requesting the zone change to build single-family homes on the property. The property to the north is in the ETJ, Zone 2 of ETJ, outside the city limits, and is undeveloped, and the property to the south is zoned PUR. And some of the properties are developed with single-family homes and some are undeveloped. And the property to the east is zoned C1 and is undeveloped, and the property to the west is zoned Agricultural District AG and is undeveloped. The future land use guide identifies this property as as mixed-use center, and this would amend the future land use guide to single-family, medium-low density. The site plan proposes 12 single-family homes with a density of 3.75 units per acre. The setbacks for the lots 2 to 11 are 20 in the front, 15 in the rear, and 5 on the side. And just for the first and the 12th lot, the setbacks are 20 to the front and 15 in the rear, and 0 in the interior, 0 on the side, and 5 in the interior. And all of the regulations are to meet the UDC, the signage, parking, and the landscaping. And there's also a green belt that's running along the Three Lakes Parkway. Out of the 15 notices that were sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of this zone change with the site plan.
Thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff? If not, are there persons here who would like to speak on this item, Mr. Priestner?
Last one. Mark Priestner, Planning Concepts, 3815 Old Bullard Road. We originally had this property zoned for RPO because we had commercial, and then it kind of dropping down to RPO before we got into residential. Under the commercial, we've developed that property, or it's under development now, as an assisted living center. So because of that, we don't want to keep a higher intensity use to the west. So we've got a lot of demand for these. You can see by the density, it's a very low density, low density single family, even though it's a gated garden home area. We've got this section of Three Lakes under construction right now. So that's what we're proposing here, is then that way it kind of closes it out. We're keeping a green belt along Three Lakes Parkway to make sure that the HOA maintains control over the landscaping. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mr. Priestner? Are there other persons who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve PD 21-007.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next is Z 21-010, Mark Wilson, 1513 West Queen Street.
This is a zone change request from C2 General Commercial District to R1B Single Family Residential District. This property is located east of the northeast intersection of West Gentry Parkway and West Queen Street. The applicant is requesting the zone change to build a single-family home. The property to the north is zoned R1B, and the property to the southeast and west are zoned C2. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family medium-low density, and this would be inconsistent with the future land use guide. R1B, looking at the neighborhood itself, the R1B would be the most appropriate zoning for this district, and also looking at the size of the property, R1B would be perfect zoning district. This property is also located in the north end. This will help implement the Tyler First goal of adding 3,000 more households in the north end. Out of the 27 notices that were sent, no notices was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of this zone change.
All right, Tharani, thank you. It's kind of I know the staff's recommendation is to approve, but it's kind of awkward because it's adjoins residential, but it's wedged in between two commercial. And I'm assuming the owner applicant's all familiar with that, obviously. I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have something to add?
Yes, the property to the east, even though it is zone C2, they are developed with single-family homes.
Right.
I had a question for Tharani. I know we don't get into construction or development aspects, but in regards to its proximity to Gentry, I mean, would there be any issues with accessing a driveway and actually utilizing it as a single-family home? Tharani, can you speak to that, or Kyle?
Well, it's currently a platted lot, so the driveway would be, it would have to be as far away from Gentry as possible, so it'd be on the eastern side of that.
But it wouldn't, if it was rezoned to R1B, it wouldn't restrict it from not being able to have a driveway at all because of its proximity to Gentry. Okay, because there are development standards that state you can't be within so many feet of a major arterial, so on and so forth.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
but since it's a platted lot, what you're saying is that they would be allowed to have a driveway.
That's right. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions for Tharani on this item? Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z 21-010.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Commissioner Phoenix, second.
Thank you, Pamela. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is Z 21-012, Michael Lynn Collins Estate. Tharani?
This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential District to M1 Light Industrial District. The property is located north of the northwest intersection of Lion Lane and northwest Loop 323. The applicant is requesting the zone change to renovate the existing building to operate a plumbing company business. The property to the north and east are zoned C1 and are developed with commercial uses, and the property to the south and west are zoned R1A and is the location of a high school. The future land use guide identifies this property as neighborhood commercial, and this would amend the future land use guide to light industrial warehouse. The applicant has proposed the Rabada Plumbing Company to be on that property, and staff is working with the applicant to find out more information of how they are planning to operate, if they're going to have an outdoor selling, or if they're going to have any kind of inventory outside, or more information on the request itself. We have communicated with the applicant that the current request M1 is incompatible with the surrounding area, especially with the single-family usage to the south with the high school in there. The property to the north is also C1, and so the staff is trying to see if they could probably come back with the PCD, with the planned commercial district, so that we can, with the site plan, we can find out what they're actually doing and have a site plan to look at it. At this time, the staff has reviewed the request and recommends denial of this zone change request from R1A to M1. Out of, also going back to the notification, out of the 5 notices mailed, no notices were returned in favor or in opposition to the request.
All right, thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff?
So, Thrani, y'all are talking with the applicant about making a different application, like a completely separate application, so it's still you're recommending denial or tabling the request? Would it have to be a whole new notification?
At this point, we're not sure if what the applicant is proposing is going to be, if there even is an option that they could go through. I mean, tabling the request would be an option that we could consider today instead of denying. In talking with the applicant, they did plan on having like razor wire, to protect their equipment and their vehicles. And then also considering, or had thought about having a billboard as well. And so those two things require the M1 zoning. So, we're not sure if those are things that they have to have as part of their business, and if perhaps another zoning would even be an option for them. And so, if since we haven't gotten to that point yet, I mean, tabling the request could be an option, but the request for M1 is not recommended.
So we're still recommending denial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the applicant is here to.
I don't have any cards on this item. Is the applicant here? Anybody representing the applicant on this item? If not, are there others who would like to speak on this item for or against?
So if we make a motion to vote this down, would the applicant have to wait a period of time before they?
No, they could reapply. If there's another category that was other than M1 that they can pursue, then they can reapply.
All right, any other questions? The staff recommendation is to deny. Would a commissioner like to make that motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nichols, I make a motion that we deny Z21-012.
Commissioner Reed, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny this application. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Application's denied. Next is C21-005, Donald Pinkerton Family Trust. Ronnie?
This is a closure request for the portion of Maggie Street and Epperson Avenue. The applicant is requesting the closure to replat the right-of-way into adjacent properties. The eastern portion of the Maggie Street, where there's M1 zoning right now, that was previously closed in the year 2000, along with the Belcher Avenue, looking back at the history of the property. This would help connect all of the applicant's property. Applicant owns all of the property to the north, south, and the western portion of the southern portion of the north, where there's the C1 to the south. The applicant owns that property as well. So that will help them to combine all of the property to use it. The notification, out of the 8 notices that were sent, 2 was received in favor and 2 in opposition to the request. There was concerns about limiting access to the property of the opposed neighbors. But they already have access to other streets, if you look at the map. So there won't be any problem with limiting access to by this closure request. And staff has reviewed the request, and staff recommends approval of this closure.
Thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff?
Just to confirm, this closure would not landlock any person's property, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any other questions for city staff? All right, at this time, I do have 2 cards. Persons who have signed up to speak. Amanda Fulmer. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Sorry, I'm moving it up. Amanda Fulmer, and I do represent the buyer for the current property at 2300 East Front Street. And Jason will talk to y'all in a minute, and he represents the Pinkerton family. So on behalf of both the Pinkerton family and the Country Meat Market is who I'm here representing, that owns the southeast corner that would combine all of the property taken in Epperson and Maggie. Currently, my client is wanting, the business has been in Tyler since 1956. They have been at the location at 2308 since 1964. So really, this business has been a staple to the Tyler community, and they have been very big on philanthropy in the area about feeding and giving back to the community as a whole. They are in the process and would like to expand. The parking is something that they have a lot of problems with. The parking that they have is currently just in the front of their building. So not only is there space for parking to accommodate the customers that they do have, it's also a safety issue trying to cross Front Street, backing up right onto Front and going across. So do y'all have any questions for me as representing the purchaser for the Pinkerton?
Any questions for Ms. Fulmer? If not, thank you for your time and presence here today.
Thank you.
I also have a card from Jason Gregory. Mr. Gregory, should state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Jason Gregory, Gregory Real Estate, 113 Robert E. Lee Drive. We haven't changed that street yet, thank goodness. We were under the impression that this was already done. Case number C06-00-0212, 628-2000. The Pinkerton Family Trust has been paying property taxes on the full 7.151 acres. So I was just curious, I guess not. We have a survey, maybe an application that wasn't done, so I was just hoping that we could get this done today. If you have any questions for me.
All right, any questions for Mr. Gregory? If not, again, thank you for your time and presence.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Are there others who would like to speak on this item, for or against? Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I have an exhibit. Where do you normally put it?
If you would hand it to the city staff, they'll, we're mostly wearing masks if you're going to be comfortable, just so we can understand.
Yes, sir.
A little better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Stephanie Clayton Curry. I'm here today with my mother, Helen Clayton. Some history about me and my family. I was raised in the heart of this East Texas property at 2030 Old Henderson Highway. I currently live in the house adjacent to the backyard of my childhood home on Richard Street. With the help of my mother, my brother, and my children, I oversee and manage our properties daily. If you look at this chart over here, all of the properties in this orange color are ours. The Robert Belcher addition that is in your sheet today was my great-grandfather, relevant to this case. Maggie Street, for this case, was named after my grandmother. Epperson Street was named after my cousins to the house that I currently live in. So as you can see, my family has a lot of deep family history, roots, ties, and property taxes associated with this area of land over here. We have a lot of properties that have been developed, and I need these access streets to access my properties for future use and development. I also need to maintain my future value and opportunities for the future use of these properties. I do not want to limit what I can use my land for future development. If these roads were closed, it would limit my access and opportunities for our properties. Also, on just the one street on Epperson Street, currently it contains 16 corner lots. 10 of them we own, and we would lose all of those, which you know are more valuable and superior lots. No one worked harder in his lifetime than my father, J.W. Clayton, to obtain these properties one at a time. My father began developing this area, and now I have taken it over, and I have a lot of developing left to do. There is a chance that the Pinkerton Group investors may never develop this, and the roads would be gone forever that would ruin our property. If I may, I'd like to show you on this map the properties at hand that they're talking about at this time. This is the section of land that they're talking about buying right here, these two little blocks. And as you can see, this is our amount of land that we own over here. So it's a substantial. So if I come off Front Street and go up here, we already have an office building here and here and here. And these are houses up Jones Street. And so my intention is to complete the houses and keep them running right up this street, up Jones Street. We're actually clearing the land right now. So we just have a lot of vested interest in this, but it's my understanding that once roads like these are closed, it's virtually impossible to ever get them open again, and that would be very detrimental to what my intentions are with the land. So, and it's my understanding that it's not just the owner of the meat market that is the one purchasing this, it's a group of investors. And it's my understanding that I do not believe all of them are local, not that it matters, but we are local. We've been here for generations, as you see. So I would ask that we get to keep both of these streets opened, as they're both right in the heart of all of our property. Any questions?
All right, thank you for your time. Any questions?
So the closure would not affect your ability to develop the north side right there.
Yes, sir, it would develop. It would interfere with all of the development. It's right. It cuts through. Our office building is right here. These are all our rent houses.
Right.
So we, to get in here, this is a major thoroughfare to the development of this whole area, as is this. And then I believe in a few minutes you're gonna hear from whoever else opposed, but you're like cutting the artery off to these businesses right here if you close this, because future development, there would be traffic and customers and everything else coming up here to access this area.
Okay. Is the southern portion of the T, is that developed?
Yes, we've already developed that.
There.
All that's developed.
The large lot, you said you wanted to continue to the east with, you pointed to a part that's not yellow. And so I was just curious about that. You had your pen pointing it to that larger lot to the north that's not yellow, just below that, Ronnie. No. Like just below, yeah, right there. I thought you pointed to that you were gonna continue to develop that.
Okay, this is the property they're trying to buy.
Right,
this
right.
one and this one.
Okay.
Yes. Now, I contacted Mrs. Pinkerton because when I was a little girl riding my bicycle and everything up this street, this has always been my dream to carry these houses on both sides of these streets here. I always thought we owned this land. I didn't even know we didn't own the land, but when I found out Mrs. Pinkerton owned that land, I made a phone call to her and I said, hey, if this deal doesn't go through, I'd be interested in buying this. Honestly, I thought we owned it this whole time, because as you can see, the houses are going up both sides of this street right here. So to me, it makes sense to keep them going up both sides of the street. But anyway, for what that's worth, that they're trying to buy this and this is what they're trying to buy. This was owned by Mrs. Pinkerton.
So my confusion is, if with the green that's scheduled here, if they were to close that, I don't see how you lose any access to your property.
Oh, I lose a ton of access.
Show me how.
Well, I only have one way in. I mean, I lose all of these roads. These roads are like major corridors that connect all this stuff. It's like going in Holly Tree. You wouldn't want to just go in on Holly Tree Drive in Glen Eagles. You would want to connect all through there with kids' golf carts and so forth and so on. I mean, you're losing your arteries to your heart here.
Okay.
That'd be like Holly Tree chopping off their streets on the inside and having 2 ways in. Same principle.
That helps me. You lose multiple accesses, but you don't lose access. That's what I'm trying to
No,
say.
but I mean, how would you like to be able to go in 2 roads in Holly Tree? I mean, these connect. They all connect.
I'm just trying to clarify what your
Yes. Yeah.
situation is.
And not only me, I mean, how would you like to be this guy and own this much property and have your artery cut off? How would you feel about that after development took place? That would.
Can we put up the overhead?
Yeah, I think we need an aerial, because I'm still confused as well. The crosshatch portion, whether that is improved or not.
No,
It is
it's all
not
unimproved. Yes, that is correct.
So to the east, I think that's ASCO?
ASCO. Yes, sir.
And that's where there used to be Maggie Street there in Jones, or Belcher Avenue. And that's what Mr. Gregory was referencing. That closure case back in 2000 closed that portion of Maggie Street and Belcher Avenue. And so they don't have any access to that. I know that's not Ms. Curry's property, but that street's not there. It's not currently developed, and they're not accessing that either. The Jones Street is the street that runs to the south of the yellow rectangle there. That's not proposed to be closed today.
Okay. All right.
So right above where Thorani just marked, those platted lots on both sides of the street, right there, do those have homes on them?
Yes.
They're all?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 homes have been built so far.
And your opportunity to build houses on both sides of that street are entirely dependent on your acquisition of the property.
Oh, no, sir. I can build all I want to on the left side.
Yeah, but on the other side, the south side, the property that own the Pinkertons.
Yes, I wouldn't obviously be able to build there, no, sir.
May I ask what the agreement is in regards to closing of the right-of-way, and who would get what portion of it?
It's
in
my
regards to
understanding.
ownership.
It's my understanding when any right-of-way is closed that the street is divided 50-50 between the adjacent property owners.
Yes, that's my understanding
Yes,
as well.
and I'm
so,
not interested in that land whatsoever. I'm interested in keeping the heart open, to have streets in there like
Okay.
anybody would in a subdivision.
Okay.
But there are no streets right now.
Right now, they're not. There weren't in Holly Tree either before they developed it out. Every subdivision starts like that.
All right, any other questions? I thank you for your time
Yes, sir.
and presence here today. You indicated that maybe somebody else wanted to speak. Is it just you, or
I believe that
anybody else here who wants to speak on this item?
Bonnie Etheridge from ASCO is supposed to be on a Zoom call.
All right. Sheila, is there somebody on the phone? I would like to hear whoever's on the phone. Hello? Somebody there? Is there somebody on the phone who would like to speak?
Okay. Caller?
Apologize for the delay, but this is the way things work in the first part of the 21st century.
Commissioner Hudson, this is Michael. Just wanted to let you know that we're showing that the caller was transferred over, so we're not quite sure what happened. So just wanted to verify that it sounds like she cannot be heard on that side.
So they're not available. They can't. Michael, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing you.
We think she might have actually got disconnected. We think she may be calling back. Give us just another moment.
All right. Well, we'll wait patiently as long as we can.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of city staff while we're
Sure,
waiting?
please do.
Kyle, are there any designation from the master street plan for the thoroughfare, for this particular thoroughfare?
There is not.
There's not, okay.
No. And there's, these streets are, they're not any plan for the city to construct these roads. And so they would be built by the developer who would need the streets to be built. So if they needed access for any lots that they plat or subdivide off of these streets, they would be required to build the streets that are right now it's just right of way that's laid out for the street. But and so since the city doesn't have any plans to construct the streets, and we do have at least a request for development in that area, that's part of the recommendation, that at this time there is imminent development that would require those or that area for their development.
Okay.
Thank you. I believe the caller is available now.
Yes,
Sheila,
sir.
may I? If you've called in to speak, please state your name and address for the record and let us hear your comments.
Built the streets that are right now it's just right away that's laid out for the street, but and so since the city doesn't have
Can
any
they put themselves on mute?
plan to construct the streets, and we do have this
That's
request
me talking.
for So the recommendation that at this time,
Caller, I am sorry, but we couldn't understand any of those comments. I wonder if we could try again.
There's a delay.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, I hope?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, my name is Bonnie Etheridge. I'm at 2602 East Front Street.
Caller, can you please mute your Facebook feed or your Facebook Live?
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. If you'll, we'll let you maybe speak for whoever is supposed to be online.
Okay, my name is Bonnie Etheridge. I'm at 2602 East Front Street. I'm with ASCO Equipment. I'm the branch manager there. We are leasing our property from Texaplex, who is showing up on the list of those that are sent the notices. With that, if you were looking at the map, my computer is freezing up and I can't show you, but where Ms. Curry had shown you the diagram, the right-of-way that's being questioned is where it comes in to my property on the far east side. Let me tell you a little history. ASCO, Associated Supply Company, started in Tyler in the 1960s. And at that
Caller?
I am sorry, we cannot hear comments.
Okay, can you hear me now? We're having some technical difficulties, I can tell. I apologize.
Can you mute your,
You were about to tell us the history of AVCO and its...
Yes. Okay, perfect. There's a delay here. I apologize. So ASCO started here in Tyler in the early 1960s and then moved to Lubbock into West Texas. I tell you that just because they wanted to come back to East Texas. When we started looking for property in 2014, we found a property here. We actually purchased this property, 2602, all the way to the Loop, where Aldi is now at. When we purchased the property, we took in consideration the entrance and exiting of our big heavy equipment haul trucks. We did end up selling the property to Aldi, but we also had hopes and knew that we had a right-of-way that possibly one day would come into the east side or the west side of our property, which is the right-of-way that we're talking about today. We are totally opposing the idea of doing away with the right-of-ways, whether or not it was ever turned back or turned into a road and having it given us access. We knew that the opportunity was there that would limit us if it was closed. So our stance is we are totally against losing this right-of-way and the opportunity of future business and having access into our property.
All right, I think we've understood your comments now. Any commissioner have a question for the caller? If not, again, thank you for your call and your input. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, well, and thank you for having patience waiting on me.
That's all we are is patient.
Okay, so what is the, ASCO, they're right, I see it. What are they zoned?
I think it's M1, industrial.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what would these streets would be residential streets? So could you use a residential street for an M1 access?
We do it all the time. It's heavy equipment. It's like dozers, tractors, backhoes, all that.
You may do it all the time, but is that
Well, they're on trailers,
a legal
obviously.
use? I know, but in a residential area, is that something that is really the intended use for the street?
If they were to have a driveway off of there, I would think they would have to have access from the higher designated street.
That's my point. So
So
what
it
I'm
may be
trying to say
difficult.
is you can't use a residential street
Well, first of
for
all,
M1 access.
this right here is not residential. This is an office building, and this is a commercial metal building. So there's no houses in here whatsoever. The houses I was speaking of would go right here. If I were to buy this, they would go up here. This down here is not residential, nor is this. None of this is. The only residential will go on this top of the street, which is not even touching what she wants to bring her equipment down. See, they're landlocked this way because they sold to Aldi, so she's got this way to bring her heavy equipment down. That's not, that
But
doesn't
the
have any
north, the north
residential.
side is residential, it's R1B.
So she doesn't have access from the south?
Yes,
they
off
do.
the front.
They do.
Yeah, she would have to have
There's
access off Front Street,
She
which
don't-
would be the appropriate place for heavy equipment to,
They also have access to the north, right? Doesn't that street run right there?
By right of way, but not by construction.
Yeah.
But there's different reasons, like I know she has a wash bay back here that they wash and maintain the equipment and everything, so there may be other reasons why they're trying to transport equipment the back way instead of the front way.
And show me again the back way.
Right here on the street that it's at discussion today, she's saying that part of the reason why they picked this location and they sold to Aldi was they knew this potential street was here and they could take their equipment down that street.
But the street's not there, right?
Well, not today, but
Yeah, and it wouldn't be an allowable cut for a driveway through a residential area.
well, as
Essentially,
long
is
as
the
it's zoned
point.
residential, but it could be rezoned if that was important perhaps for this part of it, for her
But
equipment.
they wouldn't own the north portion. I think that's kind of the point, is that they wouldn't be able to have a cut into the road there.
Well, it's all unknown at this point. It's currently for sale. No one's closed on it, so.
Okay.
It's all unknown.
So then, who's the purchaser again? The name of if they bought the property and this closure didn't take place and they bought it anyway, you would be dependent on access to that part of the T of your property only if they built the roads because it's on their property?
Well, that would all be negotiable in my opinion, but I've always understood that whoever's developing it needs to build the roads.
Okay.
But it could be negotiable. It's always negotiable.
If the roads are required to serve the development, then yeah, the developer would have to build the streets. If it wasn't closed and they developed on that, but right now it's a landlocked property, it has right-of-way access, but no street, then it'd be difficult to develop that area without closing it and combining it with the portion that has frontage along Front Street. So that's the applicant's request to, I think mainly to close that Maggie Street to combine those two tracks together, because they do have plans for development right now. The Epperson, I do believe it is part of their plan to have at least half of that right of way for their development, but I'm not sure at this time.
All right, any other questions, commissioners? Thank you for your time and presence.
Yes,
I appreciate you taking the time to come down and help us understand this a little
It's
bit
very
better.
important to me, as you can imagine. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here who wishes to speak on this item? All right, commissioners, you've heard the staff's recommendation and you've heard from members of the public who are opposed. Is a commissioner who would like to make a motion? If not, I'm going to make a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman?
I'm sorry,
I do have a question, I'm sorry.
Mr. Swain.
The road that runs east and west, is there a reason the north and south is just as important as the east and west to be done away with?
That's
For
the
the
that's the
applicant.
applicant's request.
Yeah, I mean, if the applicant wanted to confirm that, yeah, it is.
Kyle, I do have a follow-up that, as well. Let's see, Mr. Gregory was talking about a previous road closure. So was that a road closure that actually processed through and the plat was approved and it's done now, or was it approved and then the plat was never filed?
No, it was approved. It's the M1 tract there to the east, the ASCO. That used to have this Maggie Street, the east-west.
Okay,
Go all the way out to the loop.
I see, I see.
Yeah.
There's only half the
And
right-of-way
then
still remaining.
The half of Belcher, which is the north-south,
Okay.
south street there, only half has been platted.
Okay, got
And
it.
so, there used to be streets in that tract right there, and they were closed and platted together. When ASCO was built, the Jones Street was not required to be built either, because they didn't require that for access. And so it'd be a similar situation throughout here if they were closed.
Yeah.
And city staff would have carefully researched that before it came to us.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve C21-005.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the closure of a portion of Maggie Street and Epperson Avenue, C21-005. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your time and presence. The street closure is approved. Next is Z21-018, Luis Leandro, 1603, 1605, and 1607 North Ross Avenue.
This is a zone change request. I'm going to try this again. This is a zone change request from R2, two-family residential district, to R1D, single-family attached and detached residential district. This is a property that's located north of the northeast intersection of Harmony Street and North Ross Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change to build single-family homes on the property. All the adjacent properties, if you're looking at the map, are zoned are either R2 or R1B and are developed with single-family homes. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family and single-family attached, medium-high density, and this would be inconsistent with the future land use guide. The applicant is proposing the zone change to build single-family homes on that property. This would be inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhood as well. This is also in the North Tyler, and it will help implement the Tyler First comprehensive goal of adding 3,000 households to the north end. Out of the 23 notices that were sent, none was received in favor and 3 in opposition to the request, with a protest calculation of 8.45%. The neighbors were against for the property being developed. Staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval of the zone change from R2 to R1D.
Thank you, Thrani. Any questions for city staff? Is someone here representing the applicant? If not, I have 2 cards from persons who are opposed. Mrs. Verna Dewberry. Would you state your name and address for the record when you can get to the mic?
My name is Verna Dewberry, and I live at 1602 North Moore. here in Tower.
Okay.
And I was wondering, I guess I really don't understand politics and how the city runs and everything. But in the diagram that was sent out to my address, it has my home circle. And it says that they wanted to, with Block 5, which are other houses in the area. I live on Moore Street, and they want to put an alley in.
No, ma'am. Let me help you with that. The red circle that you see on the map, that is simply an area where people are noticed. Anybody within that red circle, if that's your question, is simply areas where people are given notice of what we're doing. Doesn't mean anything is going to change on your property just because you're in the red circle. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense to me. Yeah, that was my only problem.
Okay.
That you were gonna come in and put an alley in, and there's
No,
never
ma'am.
been an alley. I'm 80 years old in September. And when they moved our home from Inglewood up to where it is now, I was a little girl. And we walked from Ross up to Moore, and there was no alley.
Okay.
And that was my only problem with it.
Okay. Well, you see on the map the three green areas.
Right.
What's being proposed is somebody wants to build 3 houses, new houses in your neighborhood.
That would be on Ross.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, on Ross. And you live on North Moore.
Right, that would be in my
So
bag.
it'd be behind you on the opposite side of the street on Ross. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. You're going to get some new neighbors?
Well, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I don't bother nobody and hope nobody bothers me.
Okay. And are you Sylvia Key?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you state your name and address for the record? I know you're here to help.
Yes, sir. My name is Sylvia Jordan Key, and I live at 1505 North Bodark here in Tyler. We've been there since 1972, and I'm just here to support Ms. Dewberry, and because this is our first time here. This is real interesting. We may come back just to be in the audience. But anyway, I'm just here in support of Ms. Dewberry. Her main concern was making sure that there wasn't going to be an alley in her backyard, because if you put alleys back there, especially over here in North Tyler, people start walking up down those alleys. So with her being almost 80 years old, the last thing that, and she's lost sleep about this, the last thing she needed was people walking on her property down an alley. So it's really safety and security. So I just want to know, are you going to be able to sleep now? She's been worried about it.
Well, on behalf of the city of Tyler, let me just apologize for any sleep that you might have lost. That's certainly not our intent.
Well, it is worrying, you know.
Sure.
Sure.
That's what the paper said.
Well, I hope we've made it clearer to you now. Is there anything else you want to tell us besides when your birthday
If you'll
is?
just say no alley behind Miss Dewberry's house.
Nothing is going to change behind your house. And you're going to have some new neighbors.
So I do have a question, because there is, the white line. So
Sure.
is there any kind of an existing alley back there?
No, that alley was, I mean,
Undeveloped.
that was dedicated with the plat. So it was never constructed.
Right.
And, yeah, there we go. And it was
And
never
I found
constructed.
out-
And at this point, for it to be built, everybody would have to kind of join in together and do that. And highly unlikely that would happen, so.
Yeah, they advised us over here that the old plat showed where it was an undeveloped
Right.
alley.
That's right.
And so,
Nothing's
of course, Ms. Dewberry wanted to come here and hear with her own ears from y'all's mouth. But that's it.
Well, we're glad you came, and if you don't have anything else to do, we'll meet next month. And
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
And the next card that's dealing with that same thing, what is that, your neighbor? They had to leave and go to work.
Okay.
You should have that
The Moses Leandro?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the next one we'll deal with, and if you want to just stick around for fun, you can.
Oh, no,
You're done?
we're gonna go eat.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
all.
Thank you. On this item, I also have a card from Michael Ward. Is Mr. Ward here?
That was their neighbor.
Okay.
And the couple that were behind them, they had to leave. They had a doctor's appointment, so that's what I was talking about. There's another card for the next door neighbor.
Okay. We've got that, and if you'll try to explain it to him, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If we don't see you before then, happy birthday.
All right. Are there other persons who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Z 21-018.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this zoning change. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the next one, I understand that Mr. Reed has a conflict. He's going to step out of the room.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item on our agenda is PD 21-005, Moses Leandro, 3006 Old New Day Road. Tharani?
This is a zone change request from R1A Single Family Residential District to PUR, which is a planned unit residential district with the site plan. The applicant is requesting the zone change to build single-family homes on the property. The property to the north, south, and west are zone R1A and are developed with single-family homes, and the property to the east is zone PUR and is currently undeveloped. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family, medium-low density, and this is consistent with the future land use guide as they're building single-family homes. The applicant is proposing 14 single-family homes with the maximum density of 9.40 units per acre, with the private street running along the properties. The building setbacks to the front is 25, to the rear are 15, and side and corner is 5 feet. The site plan also proposes a 6 feet privacy fence along the rear and side of the property, of each property. And the use standard are all consistent with the R1A standards, and this is also in the North Tyler. So this would help implement the Tyler First Comprehensive Plan goal of adding 3,000 more households to the north end. We have a lot of north end items this time, yahoo! Out of the 29 notices that were sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request. And staff has reviewed this request and recommends approval of the zone change from R1A to PUR with the site plan.
All right, Tharani, any questions for city staff? All right, are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? I don't have any cards. Anybody on the telephone? All right, if not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Sure, I make a motion we approve item PD 21-005.
Second.
Mr. Swain makes the motion, Mr. Nichols seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. That brings us to plats. Kyle, these 7 first plats, are they, is the staff, they're not on a consent agenda, but are they staff recommending all of these? Or not?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we better go through them one at a time. First one's F21-047 Rolling Meadows.
We need to tell Mr. Reed to come back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of liking my privacy over here.
Good being to leave you out, Jimmy. I'm
Are they
just
still-
so used to you being gone.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a call from the previous item, if you'd like to.
I thought I asked, but if I didn't, is there someone there on the phone?
Yes.
Yes.
And whoever's on the phone, would you like to state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Connie Barnes, 2917 Old Noonday Road.
And can you tell us what you'd like to about this item?
Yes, I am against the building, the rezoning of the property off of Old Noonday Road. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you explain the reasons for your
Well, I
opposition?
believe it's gonna, because of the number of homes they're trying to build in this small vicinity, it's gonna cause a congestion in the community. I'm for regular residential homes, but those small homes that they're building out here, they're not having enough parking area for the individuals that are renting those homes, and it's causing the streets to be congested.
All right, thank you for your input. Is anyone like to ask a question of this person? Steve, can I go backwards? Will you help me do that? I thought I'd ask for somebody on the phone.
Yes, sir, you did. Yes, the chair can ask for a revote on it since you have new information, and it's really up to the commission how you want to vote.
Okay, thank you. We've got additional information that we didn't have. I'm glad I did ask, and we, at that time, didn't have anybody speak. Is there a motion to revote on PD 21-005 Moses Leandro?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take another vote and open up for questioning again if needed.
And is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the question then occurs on voting for or against this item. Any questions or comments for city staff?
Yes, Kyle, just looking at the plat, and the caller mentioned that the density seemed higher, but it's less than 10 per acre. Didn't you say it was 9 point?
It is. It's about 9 units per acre. Each home has at least 2 parking spaces, as you can see here on the site plan, and they will access their own private street that goes out to Old Noonday Road, which I believe is a collector street, which is a larger street for traffic. So, one more.
And do these homes also have garages? Or?
Yes. Do you know? If we go back to the site plan, I'm not sure if they have garages, but they do have 2 off-street. It doesn't look like they do, but they do have 2 off-street parking spaces. So, and then if there's any additional parking that could be accommodated on that side street, but generally a collector road shouldn't have too many on-street parking anyway, or spaces anyways. And so, but if the concern is that there's not enough spaces for these homes, the plan that's before us does show that there is enough.
All right, and geographically, in my mind, this is West Tyler, but we're calling it the North Tyler Development. What are the words?
It's the North End Revitalization Planning Area, which is also West Tyler.
Yeah. So it's west in my mind, but that's the way we're classifying this area.
So this meets all city guidelines on off-street parking and parking availability for a development like this, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, any other questions for city's staff?
Echo.
Sounds good. Are there other persons, anybody present who would like to speak on this item? If not, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nichols, I'd like to make a motion that we approve PD 21-005.
Commissioner Swain, second.
Second.
Mr. Nichols, thank you for your questions and thank you for your motion. Mr. Swain, thank you for your second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pamela, thank you. All right. Now we can look at plats, and now we can get Judy. Well, I guess I should have asked. All right, Tharani, you're doing the plats too. F21-047 Rolling Meadows.
This is a 47-lot subdivision containing approximately 10.03 acres of land. This is located at the Zone 2 of Tyler ETJ. The purpose of the plat is to create 47 lots. At this time, the staff recommends denial of the plat as there are some technical reasons, and there are some of the comments that needs to be addressed.
All right, persons here would like to speak on this item? Anybody on the phone? Is there a motion to deny? That's the staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nichols recommend we deny plat F21-047.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is F21-045 Rolling Meadows West Final Plat.
This is an 8-lot subdivision containing approximately 4.33 acres of land. This property is also located in the Zone 2 of Tyler ETJ. The purpose of the plat is to create 8 lots. At this time, the staff recommends denial of the plat as well, just because the applicant has requested to withdraw the request.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? Anybody here who wishes to speak? Is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny F21-045.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Plat's denied. Plat's denied. Thank you, Pamela. Next is P21-023 Ruiz 46 addition.
This is a 2-lot subdivision containing approximately 74.10 acres of land. This is also located in the Zone 2 of Tyler ETJ. The purpose of the plat is to plan for these 2 lots, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
All right, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this item? Staff recommendation is to approve. Someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve P21-023.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Mr.
Second.
Swain seconds the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next is F21-042 Ruiz 46 Edition Final Plat.
This is the final plat that we saw for the preliminary plat earlier. This is for a 1-lot subdivision containing approximately 0.84 acres of land located in the Zone 2 of Tyler ETJ. It's to create 1 lot, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
All right, anyone who wishes to speak on this item? If the staff recommendation is to approve, is there a...
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve F21-042.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is F21-043 Patriots Hill Edition Final Plat.
This is a 52-lot subdivision containing approximately 7.52 acres of land. It's located at the west of the intersection of Haverhill Drive and Mobley Lane. The property is currently zoned R1B and R1D. The purpose of the plat is to create 52 lots. At this time, the staff recommends denial of this plat for the technical reasons, and the staff comments have not been addressed.
Are the persons here who wish to speak on this item? If not, the staff's recommendation is to deny. Is there someone who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny F21-043.
Thank you, Pamela. That means that Mr. Nichols is going to second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to deny, say aye. Aye. Plat's denied. Next is F21-072 Lone Star Lutheran Edition, final plat.
It's a 26-lot subdivision containing approximately 3.80 acres of land located north of the northeast intersection of Grande Boulevard and New Copeland. The property is zoned PUR, which is a planned unit residential district. The purpose of the plat is to create the 26 lots, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
All right, the staff recommendation is to approve. Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we approve F21-072.
Motion's been made
Second.
to approve. Pamela on the phone, thank you, makes a motion to, seconds the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Plat's approved. Next is F21-048 Barrett Heights at Oak Hollow, Fifth Amendment.
This is a 4-lot subdivision containing approximately 7.04 acres of land located south of the intersection of Barrett Court and Oak Alley. This is zoned R1A, and the purpose of the plat is to subdivide that 1 lot into 4 lots. The plat is here because it required notification, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Staff's recommendation is to approve. Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item? If not, would a commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve F21-048.
Commissioner Reed, second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this plat. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That brings us to the consent plats Group A. Kyle, are all these, let's see, it looks like there are 5. Are all these still on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
City staff is recommending approving all 5 of these plats, F21-052, F21-044, F21-049, F21-050, F21-051. Are there persons here who would like to speak on these plats? If not, the staff recommendation is to approve these as a group and consent plats Group A. Excuse me. Group A, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nichols, I recommend that we approve consent plats Group A.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve consent plats Group A. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is consent plats Group. I can't say consent plats consecutively. It's just awkward for me. Are all these, all 3 of these plats to be denied, Kyle?
Yes, sir. These plats do not meet the approval criteria, and so staff recommends denial.
All right, the staff recommendation on F21-059, F21-039, and F21-046 is to deny because they do not meet the approval criteria. Are the persons here who'd like to speak? If not, is there a motion to deny?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion we deny consent plats Group B.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Reed, second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those plats are denied. Now, next is construction plats Group A. There are 8 plats, or 8 construction plans there here that do not meet the city criteria. I'm sorry. Thank you. Page 2.
Staff recommends denial of consent construction plats Group A.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Any persons who would like to speak on these 10 construction plats? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Reed, I'd like to make a motion that we deny consent construction plans Group A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pamela. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those construction plans are denied. Y'all want to take about a 5-minute break while we
Yes, please.
get ready for the
Deny Blair.
Well, my issue is if she's needing any access, or if there's any major street there, or if it impacts her property at all, and it sounds like it doesn't, what does it impact that pathway? Which was your point, right?
Yeah, but they also wouldn't be allowed to use that road.
Caught me off guard, Tim. My Monday night,
Okay.
So I was
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I talked to him on the phone.
That's BSF on Monday night.
Okay. Yeah, he said, I like this Lloyd Nichols guy. I found out he's on P and Z with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. all kinds of cool stuff. A lot of hiking. Petit Jean. Petit Jean. Yep. Yep, in Arkansas.
Is Pamela still on the phone? Pamela? I think she's still here yet.
Yes, sir.
Mike's Robotics.
Okay, you should be here because we're all having ice cream and cookies.
Y'all got ice cream without me? Well, you know, David,
Nobody
I would,
more than me.
I would have been there, but